Chapter 141, Jujube Cake. When Lu Jiu heard Li Chenmo's words, she smiled and said, "Husband, I'm not that weak. I can still do this kind of work." I know you can, but I can't bear to let you do it. Li Chenmo nodded and said lightly. Hearing his words, Lu Jiu was a little dumbfounded. Her husband dotes on her so much. If this continues, she may become a spoiled girl who can't do anything in the future. Watching him work, she chuckled and said, "One day I will be spoiled rotten by you." "That would be great. In this way you can't live without me," Li Chenmo muttered in a low voice. What did you say?" Lu Jiu was unable to hear what he said and asked. "It's nothing, go in and warm yourself up. Although it's almost the beginning of spring, the weather is still cold. Don't catch a cold," Li Chenmo said, motioning for her to go in. At his urging, Lu Jiu could only leave the work to him and go to the kitchen. As the Lantern Festival approaches, she plans to make jujube cakes or dumplings to sell in the market, but before selling, she had to let her husband try it. Whenever she thought of Li Chenmo's grievance when he learned about the empanadas, she couldn't help but smile. She didn't expect him to be so cute. Lu Jiu heard the sound of chopping from the front yard, so she took out a bag of jujube from her space. As for brown sugar, eggs, oil and flour, she has them all in the kitchen. Recalling the recipes, she prepared the ingredients for 5 recipes. First, she washed and steamed 500 grams of jujube. 10 minutes later, she took the jujubes out of the steamer, removed the seeds, poured a little water, and pureed them into jujube paste. Then she put about 400 grams of jujube paste into a bowl and added 100 grams of olive oil. After stirring until well combined, she sets it aside to cool. Afterward, she used a large bowl and cracked 15 eggs into it. She put 350 grams of brown sugar through a sieve into the bowl and whisked until the mixture was thick and tripled in volume. She raised the egg beater and saw that the tip of the mixture was a little stiff, so she sifted 400 grams of low-gluten flour into the mixture and gently folded it with a spatula until the flour was fully mixed. She then added the jujube paste to the mixture and continued to fold the mixture until well blended. When the batter was ready, she took out a few bowls and greased them with some oil so the cakes wouldn't stick to the bowl later. She poured the batter into the bowl and dropped the bowl several times to remove any air bubbles. She then puts it in a bamboo steamer and steams it over medium heat for 20 minutes. While the jujube cake was steaming, she prepared the dumpling wrappers. 20 minutes later, she examined the cake and stabbed it with a small stick. Seeing that the cake was ready, she took it out of the steamer and boiled a pot of water for Li Chenmo. Not long after the water boiled, Li Chenmo walked into the kitchen. Different from others, their kitchen is larger, more than 20 square meters, so even though it contained a couple of stoves, a long table and a few cupboards, it was quite spacious. As soon as he walked into the kitchen, Li Chenmo smelled the fragrance of jujube cake. He walked to the long table and saw several bowls of jujube cake still steaming. He smiled and asked, "Wife, why are you making so many jujube cakes? We won't be able to finish it." "I will tell you later. Go wash up first. I boiled a pot of hot water for you," Lu Jiu said with a smile. "Okay," Li Chenmo took the hot water and went to wash up. When Li Chenmo left the kitchen, Lu Jiu kept the dumpling wrappers and jujube cakes into her space and left a bowl of jujube cake for Li Chenmo to taste. As she cut the jujube cake, she boiled a pot of ginger milk. When the ginger milk was ready, she poured it into a jar. Then she brought ginger milk and the cake into the bedroom. When Li Chenmo finished washing up, he saw his wife already waiting for him in the bedroom. He climbed onto the kang bed, sat next to her and asked, "Now, can you tell me why you made so many jujube cakes?" "Before we talk, drink this ginger milk to warm yourself up first," Lu Jiu said, handing him a glass of ginger milk. Li Chenmo frowned. He didn't like ginger drinks, but he still took the cup and drank it. Unexpectedly, the drink tasted pretty good, so he took another sip. "Husband, try my jujube cake." Lu Jiu handed him a piece of jujube cake. Li Chenmo glanced at her and took a bite. He nodded as he savored the taste. The sweetness is not overwhelming. The flavor of the jujube mixes well with the brown sugar. He knew that his wife would not skimp on the ingredients when cooking, so her food tastes much better than everyone else's. Although she knew his husband's answer, Lu Jiu still asked, "Husband, how is the taste?" "It's delicious," Li Chenmo nodded and finished the cake in a few bites. "Husband, do you think our jujube cake can be sold to the black market during the Lantern Festival?" she asked again. Li Chenmo thought she would not go to the black market again these days. After all, her income that day was equivalent to a month's salary of a factory manager. He was silent for a moment and then said, "I believe we can sell it." "Then can you help me send it to the middleman?" Hearing her words, Li Chenmo was stunned and asked, "Don't you want to go?" Lu Jiu shook her head and said, "No. If both of us go, we will be noticed easily and it will cause us trouble. If you go alone, you can hide easily and the risk will be lower, but I have a request." Seeing her talking so carefully with him, Li Chenmo chuckled and said, "Tell me what you want me to do. You are my wife, and as your husband, I will definitely fulfill your wishes." Husband, I want to collect gold, jade, calligraphy and painting or other antiques. Can you help me do it?" Lu Jiu asked timidly. "Why do you want to get those items? These are prohibited items. If you are caught, you may be sent to prison. It's too risky," Li Chenmo asked with surprise. Lu Jiu was silent for a moment and said in a low voice, "I know, but I like those items. It is beautiful and looks expensive. Maybe the value of these items will increase in the future and we can make money by selling them." Li Chenmo looked at her thoughtfully and asked, "Wife, where are you going to store these things?" Lu Jiu's eyes lit up when she heard his words. Judging from his words, it seemed that he agreed to her request, but where should she store them? It was obviously stored in her own space, but could she tell him? Li Chenmo noticed her hesitation to answer his question and waited for her patiently. After a long time, he finally heard her say, "Husband, I actually hid something from you. I know we have agreed not to keep secrets from each other, but I don't know how to tell you about this matter." Hearing her words, Li Chenmo's heart beat faster and full of anticipation. Will she finally be willing to tell him her secret? He clenched his fists to control his emotions as he pretended to look calm and said softly, "Wife, you can tell me everything." Lu Jiu looked at him and saw that he was looking directly at her, his eyes clear and full of trust. After hesitating for a moment, she finally made the decision. She held his hand and closed her eyes. Lu Jiu didn't know if she could bring others into her space because she had never tried it. But since she can enter the space with her body, she should also be able to bring others into her space, right? The next moment she opened her eyes, Lu Jiu saw the familiar scenery in her own space. When she felt the warm palm on her hand, she turned her head and saw Li Chenmo standing motionless beside her with wide eyes. Seeing his shocked expression, she panicked, fearing that he would take her as a demon or ghost. "Husband," she said as she tightened her hold on Li Chenmo's palm. Li Chenmo came back to his senses only when he heard his wife's trembling voice with a hint of worry. He lowered his head and looked at his wife. He took a deep breath to calm his heart. Ever since he discovered his wife's strangeness, he had been preparing himself for any situation, but he didn't expect his wife's secret to be so shocking. He was stunned when he saw the vast farmland, clear rivers, several factories, and a huge warehouse. When he turned around, he saw a beautiful house with rows of clothes drying in the yard. He turned to look at Lu Jiu and asked, "Wife, where are we? What is this place?" Lu Jiu did not dare to look at her husband and could only fidget in place. Just when she was at a loss, she was pulled over by Li Chenmo and finally fell into his warm embrace. He patted her back and said nothing. The moment she was enveloped by his embrace, her worries and fears disappeared instantly. Lu Jiu stretched out her arms, hugged him back and buried her face on his chest. After a while, Li Chenmo asked, "Can you tell me everything now?" Lu Jiu nodded, broke away from his embrace and said, "Husband, before you came back from the military, I fell into the river and caught a cold. I had a high fever and almost died. When I woke up, I lost part of my memory and obtained this place. I don't know what happened, but I can grow crops, raise animals, and even process products here. The meat, rice, vegetables, and other things in our family all come from here." At first, Li Chenmo had already thought of several situations about Lu Jiu's secret, but after hearing her words, he breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, his wife is still an ordinary person. Even with this place, she wouldn't be able to leave without him knowing. "So what are your plans next?" Li Chenmo asked her. "I want to make money by selling food, meat, or snacks. After all, there are too many things here, and we can't finish them even after several generations. It's better to make more money," Lu Jiu said with bright eyes. "All right," Li Chenmo nodded. "We can also exchange these supplies for jade, gold, or other antiques. As long as we keep those things here, no one can find them," she added. Li Chenmo nodded again. After telling him her secret, Lu Jiu felt at ease and smiled happily. The male lead is indeed a very good man. Not only did he not accuse her of being a ghost, he also agreed to her request. Lu Jiu was in a happy mood and took Li Chenmo to tour her space. She also told him about the time difference between her space and outside. When Li Chenmo saw the modern items in the house, he was stunned. Seeing all this, he finally understood why his wife took a shower so quickly. In fact, she took longer to shower than he did, and it was only because of the time difference between this place and outside that she could take a bath so quickly. After understanding everything, Li Chenmo found that living in a house in Lu Jiyu's space was really convenient. He also likes the bathroom and soft beds. They stayed in the space for a long time that was equivalent to nearly an hour outside before leaving. After leaving Lu Jiyu's space, Li Chenmo changed his plan. Before he had planned to go into the mountains to hunt some animals and collect some mushrooms. If he sells the meat and mushrooms on the black market, he can make a lot of money. But now, with so many goodies in his wife's space, it's best to sell those instead. Not only did it save him time walking up the mountain, but he could also use the space to evade officers more easily. Sitting on the Kang bed, Li Chenmo thought about the pros and cons and said, "Wife, I think you should come to the black market with me. With your space, we don't have to worry about someone finding out that we brought so much food every time we visit the town. Not to mention, if something happens, we can hide in your space." Lu Jiyu's eyes lit up when she heard her husband's words. Everything her husband said was right. She hadn't thought much about it before because she didn't want him to know about her space. But now, wouldn't it be better for her to go with him? They don't need to carry heavy bamboo baskets or worry about being caught by villagers or officers. Coming to this conclusion, she nodded and said, "In that case, should we go today? It's still early and there's nothing we need to do at home." Li Chenmo looked at the sky outside the window and nodded. If they walk to town, it takes 2 hours round trip. They may spend 1 to 2 hours on the black market before returning. It should be around the afternoon when they come back from town. "All right," he nodded. After putting on scarves, woolen hats and gloves, they locked the house and walked to town. When the villagers saw them walking towards the village entrance, one of them asked curiously, "Jiyu, where are you going in such cold weather?" Lu Jiyu looked at the villagers and knew that this person liked gossip and inquiring into other people's business. She thought for a while, smiled at the villager and said, "Sister-in-law, my husband and I want to go to the supply store in the town." After listening to her words, the villager's interest weakened and she said sourly, "You are so blessed to be able to marry a good man. While you can eat meat and white rice every day, we can't even buy Maltose candy for our children." Lu Jiu saw her jealousy, but what else could she do besides smile? Who told her to be good-looking and lucky? Even the male protagonist cannot resist her charm. Unfortunately, they can't do PDAs in this day and age. Otherwise, she would let them eat dog food until they were full. Thinking of this, she smiled slyly at the villagers and said distressedly, "Sister-in-law, stop teasing me. My husband is indeed the best man I have ever met. Seeing him constantly buying me meat and good things makes my heart ache for the money he spent. But no matter what I do or say, he still insists on spending money on me. He didn't even allow me to do housework. I lay in bed all day until my body was sore." Li Chenmo looked at his wife with playful eyes and said heartbrokenly, "Wife, just tell me if you feel any pain in your body. I can give you a massage to relieve the soreness. Don't bear the pain alone." "Husband, you are already very tired from doing all the work. How can I bear to let you massage me again?" Lu Jiu sighed. "Wife, you are so good to me. It's my blessing to be able to marry you," Li Chenmo said sincerely from the bottom of his heart. His wife really treats him so well. The two smiled at each other and continued on their way, ignoring the jealous villagers. Seeing that they were talking so intimately, the villager said sourly, "What does she have to be proud of? All these words must be an act. If she hadn't shamelessly forced him to marry her, I believe no one would be willing to marry her." After hearing her sour words, another villager laughed and said, "Sister-in-law, you can't say that. Men who want her as their wife may crowd your house when they gather together. Not to mention other production teams, just in our team, several men pursued her. Pei, she is just a shameless woman who likes to flirt with men. Those men just want to play with her." The villager refuted her words. After hearing her words, a group of villagers' eyes lit up as they smelled the gossip. One of them asked in a low voice, "Sister-in-law, how do you know they just want to play with her? Maybe they really like her." "How could I not know? I live next to the Yang family, and I hear their daughter-in-law scolding Lu Jiu every day. She also said that the person who was supposed to be Li Chenmo's wife was herself, but Lu Jiu snatched her man away." The villager snorted. The other villagers looked at each other, and one of them said, "Haven't the Lu family and the Li family already clarified this matter? Why is the Yang family's daughter-in-law still talking nonsense?" "Exactly, I also witnessed everything when they were making trouble that day. That girl is really not a good thing. Although the Yang family is full of bad people, she is worse than them. After being caught on the bed with Yang Licha by Aunt Yang, she still refuses to admit her relationship with Yang Licha," another villager said excitedly as she clicked her tongue. "Huh, I thought they were just arguing about money," another villager said in surprise. No matter what the truth is, it is a fact that Lu Jiu framed Li Chenmo and forced him to marry her. She and Zyro Yiking are both shameless women. It's a pity that a good man is ruined like this. There was obvious jealousy in the villagers' words. If it weren't for Lu Jiyu, it would have been her sister who became Li Chenmo's wife. Then the good things the Lu family gets will become hers and her family. Unfortunately, before she could mention the matter between her sister and Li Chenmo to Father Lei, the villagers discovered Lu Jiyu and Li Chenmo at the mountain foothill first. While the villagers were spending their time gossiping, Pan Magia was in the hospital, looking at the sleeping man. Due to his injuries, he won't be discharged from the hospital until tomorrow. After sending Ling Yun to the hospital, she had already put the matter about him on the back of her mind. When Zyro Li saw her at the village hall today, he blocked her way and said that his brother wanted to see her and thanked her in person. Pan Magia couldn't do anything under Zyro Li's urging, so she went to the hospital. Before coming to the hospital, she returned to the Lu family and brought a bag of wild berries that she picked yesterday. Now, standing by the bed, she didn't know whether to wait for him to wake up or leave. Just when she was in a dilemma, the man slowly opened his eyes and their eyes met. The moment Pan Magia met his eyes, her heart skipped a beat and she stammered, hello. Ling Yun stared blankly at the girl in front of him. He didn't know who she was, but when he heard her voice, he knew this girl was the one who saved his life. The girl who complained all the way from the village to the hospital. But despite all her complaints, she not only sent him to the hospital, but also spent a lot of money to pay for his hospital bill. So he was very grateful to her. After a while, he tried to sit up. Seeing him struggling to sit up, Pan Magia quickly held his shoulder and supported him. She placed the pillow behind him to make him more comfortable. After that, she quickly let go and said, "Well, Comrade Zyro said you want to see me. Do you need my help with anything?" After hearing her words, Ling Yun nodded and said, "I just want to thank my benefactor for saving my life and lending me money." Due to physical weakness after the operation, and being just woken up, his deep voice was slightly hoarse. Pan Magia felt her ears were blessed when she heard his voice. It was so sexy that her heartbeat instantly increased. Coupled with his handsome face, she felt her cheeks getting hotter and hotter. After a while, Pan Magia came back to her senses and waved her hands quickly while saying, "Your words are too heavy. I just sent you to the hospital. It was the doctors and nurses who saved your life. As for the money, it is just a small matter. You can return it at any time." As she waved, she realized she was still holding the bag of wild berries. She quickly handed him the wild berries and said, "This is for you. I picked it yesterday. It's very fresh and very sweet." Ling Yun looked at the wild berries in the bag and said, "Thank you." "No problem," Pan Magia said, rubbing her nose. This was the first time she felt so embarrassed when talking to a man. She didn't know what was wrong with her. She didn't dare to look at him directly. After a brief conversation, both of them fell silent. Pan Magia felt extremely uncomfortable and wanted to leave quickly. Ling Yun saw her standing there with her head lowered and felt she was like a mimosa. She scares easily and is very shy. Unconsciously, a smile appeared on his stern face and he said gently, "By the way, my name is Ling Yun. What's your name?" She was startled by his sudden question and raised her head. "Oh, my name is Pan Magia. May is as beautiful, Jia is as house." "MHMM, it is indeed very beautiful." Ling Yun looked at her intently and said with a smile. Pan Magia was confused, but she didn't dare to ask him what his words meant. So she looked around the ward and said awkwardly, "This room is not bad. The window faces east and you can get the morning sunshine." "MHMM, Ling Yun nodded in response. Hearing his low hum, Pan Magia wailed in her heart. Why is this man so stingy with his words? How could she continue the conversation when he ended the topic like this? Ling Yun looked at her with amusement, but Pan Magia was on pins and needles. Just when she was thinking about what to say so she could leave as soon as possible, she heard Ling Yun ask, "Will you come again tomorrow?" I'm not sure," Pan Magia said with a tilt head. She still had to learn how to plow fields and grow crops. She has been very busy recently. "I can be discharged from the hospital tomorrow," Ling Yun added. She didn't understand what he meant at first, but after thinking for a while, she finally understood. It turned out that he was worried about the hospital bill. Thinking of Zyro Li's words, she understood that he had no money and might be embarrassed to borrow money from her again. That's why he said it in a roundabout way. Fortunately, she understood what he meant. Otherwise, he would be embarrassed if he couldn't leave the hospital tomorrow because of unpaid hospitalization fees. Now that she has decided to help him, she should help him to the end. After Pan Magia reached the conclusion, all her embarrassment suddenly disappeared. The man didn't mean anything else. He just wanted to thank her for her help and wanted to borrow money. She breathed a sigh of relief and said with a smile, "Then I'll come back tomorrow." "All right," Ling Yun smiled. "I still have things to deal with, so I'm leaving." You should rest more and try the berries. Pan Magia reminded him when she saw that he had no intention of trying the wild berries. He nodded again. Pan Magia scratched her head and found that this man was quite similar to Lu Jiyu's husband. Both of them are masters of killing the conversation. Then see you tomorrow, she said, as if asking his permission to leave. Be careful on the road, Ling Yun nodded at her. Hearing his words, she breathed a sigh of relief and quickly left the ward. Ling Yun chuckled lightly as he saw her walking so fast as if she was running away. He didn't expect that one day a girl would be afraid of him. Although he rarely speaks and has an indifferent attitude, he is still polite to others. Although he was an orphan, many girls were interested in him. He knew he was in good shape, hardworking, and quite handsome. Although his house is small, he makes a lot of money selling meat, mushrooms, and other wild products from the mountains on the black market. But only he knows that he has a lot of money. Even Zyro Li doesn't know where his money is hidden. He looked thoughtfully at his injured left arm. In his current situation, it is impossible for him to participate in spring plowing and earn 10 work points. At most, he could only earn 5 work points. According to what Zyro Li told him, Pan Magia came to Zai village last month. Therefore, this year's spring plowing was her first time working in the fields. Since he can't do much, it's better to go and help her. With his help, she can earn 10 work points. Not knowing that she had obtained a capable helper, Pan Magia patted her chest as she walked out of the hospital. If she stayed alone with Ling Yun in the ward longer, she was afraid that her heart would explode. Although he was so handsome and treated her politely, Pan Magia still couldn't help but feel scared when she was with him. His aura was too powerful and the pressure was suffocating. It feels like being stared at by a wild animal. He was the kind of guy she couldn't get along with naturally. Thinking of this, she trembled all over and said to herself, "What am I thinking? How can such a polite person be compared with a beast? I must be overthinking." After patting her cheeks a few times, she took a deep breath before she finally calmed down. Seeing that it was still early, she went to the post office to see if there was any letter from her family. A few days ago, when she went to collect firewood in the mountains, she found a cluster of mushrooms that looked like Ganoderma lucidum and sent it to her father along with a letter. She didn't know if those mushrooms were Ganoderma lucidum, so she asked her father to check whether it was Ganoderma lucidum and sold it for money. She didn't plan to go into the city today, but now that she's here, she should go take a look. When she arrived at the post office, there were already several people waiting in line, so she joined the line and waited for her turn. After waiting for 30 minutes, it was finally her turn. The postman saw her and asked, "Hello, how can I help you?" "Hello, comrade, can you help me check if there is any letter for me? My name is Pan Magia, and I live in Zai village." "Please wait a moment," the postman said, and went to the back room to check the letters and packages. 5 minutes later, he came back with a thick envelope. He put the envelope on the table and said, "Here is your letter. Please sign the document." Pan Magia nodded and signed her name on the paper. She took the envelope and said, "Thank you, comrade." The postman had a good impression of her and said with a smile, "You're welcome." After visiting the post office, Pan Magia returned to the village. She doesn't have much money left, so now she can't afford anything sold in the state-owned supply store. What's more, she has to help Ling Yun pay for his hospital bill tomorrow. She hopes her money will be enough to pay the bills. Otherwise, they will need to borrow some money from others. Back at Lu's house, she saw Zyro Li coming from the other direction. When Zyro Li saw her, his eyes lit up and he walked over. "Miss Pan, have you just come back from town?" he asked with a smile. Pan Magia looked him over from head to toe and asked, "Why are you so interested in my affairs?" Zyro Li smiled awkwardly and said, "I'm just curious. By the way, have you gone to see my brother?" "Yes, your brother will be discharged from the hospital tomorrow. What time do you want to go to the hospital tomorrow?" she asked. Zyro Li thought for a while and said, "Miss Pan, you see. My brother's injury is not light, and his body is still very weak. Even with my help, it will be difficult for him to walk back to his home from the town. How about you borrow your friend's bicycle again?" Pan Magia thought of Ling Yun's pale face and hoarse voice. It seems that he is indeed weak. After considering the pros and cons, she said, "I can borrow the bicycle, but it's better if you are the one who brings him back. After all, we are strangers, and it would be bad for others to talk about me and him." Zyro Li was taken aback by Pan Magia's words and said, I can't ride a bicycle." She frowned when she heard his words. Since Zyro Li couldn't ride a bicycle, she had to go to the county town to pick up Ling Yun and take him back from the hospital. She sighed and said, "Okay, I'll go find Comrade Han to borrow a bicycle later." Great, thank you, Miss Pan, Zyro Lee said with a smile. When she walked to Lu's house, she found that Zyro Lee had been following her, so she stopped and asked, "Is there anything else?" "No," Zyro Lee shook his head. "Then why are you following me?" she asked again. "I'm looking for Lu Cheng." Hearing his words, Pan Magia felt embarrassed for her narcissistic thoughts. She coughed to hide her embarrassment and said, "Oh." Seeing the two of them coming together, Mother Lu raised her eyebrows and asked, "Zyro Lei, are you here to see my second son?" "Yes, Aunt Lu, is Brother Cheng at home?" Zyro Lee asked. "He's in the backyard." "Then I'll go find him, thank you, Aunt Lu," Zyro Lee said and walked to the backyard. Seeing him leave, Mother Lu looked at Pan Magia's rosy cheeks and said, "Although the weather is getting warmer, you still have to wear thicker clothes. Don't catch a cold." "I understand, Aunt Lu, I'm going back to the room first." Pan Magia nodded and said, "Go ahead." After entering her room, Pan Magia closed the door and sat on the Kang bed. A month after living with the Lu family, they finally reached an understanding. When Pan Magia went to collect firewood, she would get more for the Lu family. Whenever she is free, she also helps them with housework. And every time she joined the Lu family for a meal, the Lu family would not ask her for money. In this way, they lived together peacefully. Over time, Mother Lu, Chen Anwen, and Wang Muxiao would use the stove connected to the Kang bed in Pan Magia's room when cooking. So when she lies on the Kang, she will be very warm and comfortable. Sitting on the Kang bed, Pan Magia took out the letter from her clothes and opened it. Opening the envelope, she saw a wad of money inside. When she took it out, the money was wrapped in a letter. She put the money back in the envelope and read the letter. It turned out that the mushroom she gave to her father was indeed Ganoderma lucidum. Her father worried that if they kept all the mushrooms at home, they would get into trouble. So after keeping 2 mushrooms for their family to use, her father sold the rest on the black market. Because Ganoderma lucidum is scarce and has many health benefits, it sells for a high price. Her father sold it to a middleman and made a profit of 3,800 yuan. He sent 800 yuan to her and kept the rest as her dowry. Her father also asked her to return to the city after completing her re-education in Zai village. Under normal circumstances, the re-education program will take up to 4 years to complete, and if she is lucky, she would be able to go back in 2 years. But when she thought of the educated youths who had stayed here for several years, she was not sure whether she would be able to go back to the city or not. Except for a few educated youth who refused to marry because they didn't want to lose their city house registration, most educated youth would marry villagers because of their age and have children of their own. But once they marry a villager, their citizenship will be transferred from the city or town to the village where they live. This year, Pan Magia is already 20 years old. It can be said that she has already passed the marriageable age. If she waited until she returned to the city to find the right husband, she might have become a leftover girl. It seemed like she needed to find a way back to the city as soon as possible. Otherwise, she may need to marry a local. While she doesn't think the villagers were unworthy of her, she still wants to live in the city so she can stay closer to her family. After reading the letter, she folded it neatly. She took out the money and put the letter into the envelope. She counted the money and divided it into 4 parts. She took a piece of oil paper and tore it in half. She put 200 yuan into oil paper, rolled it into a tube, and tied it with hemp rope. Later, she placed another 200 yuan into her wallet for tomorrow's use. Then she took out the small jar from the cabinet and put 200 yuan in it before she hid the jar under her clothes. After that, she looked around the room and climbed onto the table while holding the money wrapped in oil paper. There were 2 bundles, and each bundle was 200 yuan. She placed one bundle on the beam above the table and the other bundle in the small hole at the back of the cabinet. Satisfied with the place she hid the money, Pan Magia went to the kitchen to boil water and wash up. At the same time, Lu Jiu and Li Chenmo were walking into the black market. Today, both of them covered half of their faces with scarves and wore shabby cotton jackets. Before going to the black market, they went to Lu Jiu's space to change clothes. Before reaching Huzi's place, Lu Jiu saw the old man from before. As soon as the old man saw her, his eyes lit up and he walked over quickly. "Girl, you finally came today. Did you bring the grain?" he asked in a low voice. Lu Jiu was carrying a bamboo basket and nodded. Using the bamboo basket as a cover, she took out 4 kilograms of white rice from her own space and said, "Uncle, I brought 4 kilograms of white rice today. Do you want it?" "How much is it?" the old man asked excitedly. It had been a long time since he last had white rice. 15 yuan a pound, Lu Jiu said in a low voice. "How can it be so expensive? Girl, you can't quote the price randomly." The old man was surprised and said with a frown, "Uncle, you have tasted my food, so you should know that I never sell low-quality things. Lu Jiu said while showing him the rice. Different from the white rice sold in state-owned supply stores, her white rice is of better quality as it is the result of modern agriculture. Not only does it taste better, but the protein and minerals are also better. Not to mention that everything grown in her space has some healing properties and high health benefits. Selling it at 30 yuan per kilogram, it is already very cheap. The old man was surprised when he saw the plump white rice. Even when he was still the head of the Mo family, he had never seen white rice of this quality. This is indeed a good thing. After hesitating for a moment, he took out a jade pendant and asked, "Is this enough for all the rice?" The moment Lu Jiu saw the jade pendant, she was stunned. The jade pendant is blue and can be said to be a rare piece of jade. The quality of the pendant is very good. Even in modern times, blue jade is difficult to obtain, as it can only be found in Guatemala, Japan, and California. She took one look at the old man and decided to be nice to him. After all, those who live in this era and can still get this piece of jade will definitely not have a simple background. After inspecting the jade pendant for a while, she said, "This jade pendant is of high quality. It's more than enough for 4 kilograms of white rice. In addition to the rice, I will also give you a pound of beef jerky." The old man was very happy after hearing this and said, "Girl, you have a good eye for jade. I still have some jade on me. Next time you come, bring more meat and grains. If you can get some eggs, mushrooms, or fish, that would be better." Lu Jiu heard this and asked, "Is anyone in your family sick?" The old man was stunned and asked her, "Why did you say that?" "Mushrooms and fish are nourishing to the body." After a while, the old man said, "My grandson was born with a weak body. He has been relying on medicine to survive. If you can give me some ginseng or other supplement, I am willing to pay you more." Lu Jiu thought for a while and remembered that she had planted some ginseng before, so she nodded and said, "All right, I will try my best to find some ginseng or milk for you." "Great, as long as you can get me some ginseng, I will give you 2 jade bangle bracelets," the old man said. "We will discuss the price after I get the goods. I will leave now," Lu Jiu said, handing the rice to the old man. After she put the jade pendant into the space, she walked up to Li Chenmo and nodded to him. The two of them walked quickly towards Huzi's place. It didn't take long for them to reach Huzi's place. Before knocking on the door, Lu Jiu took out 20 kilograms of fat meat, 10 kilograms of lean meat, 20 kilograms of white rice, 10 kilograms of beef jerky, 50 eggs, and 5 bottles of oyster sauce. She put it in a big bamboo basket and let Li Chenmo carry it. As for the 3-layer bamboo basket she was carrying, she took out jujube cakes, frozen dumplings, empanadas, and 5 jars of wild honey from the space and put them inside. After they were ready, Li Chenmo knocked on the door rhythmically for a while. Not long after, the young man from before opened the door. Seeing them, his eyes lit up and he turned sideways to let them in and said with a smile, "Brother, you are finally here. My boss has been waiting for you." Li Chenmo raised his eyebrows when he saw the young man buttering him up but said nothing. They followed him to a back room. Before the young man had time to report, Huzi had already walked up to them and asked, "Brother, why haven't you been here for the past 2 days? Customers are asking about empanadas and scallion pancakes every day." "There's something going on at home," Li Chenmo said. He had no intention of having anything to do with Huzi other than business. Therefore, his answer was perfunctory. After hearing his words, Huzi knew that Li Chenmo didn't want to reveal too much information about himself, so he stopped asking and glanced at the bamboo baskets. Today, they bought a large, fully filled bamboo basket and a medium-sized bamboo basket. Li Chenmo noticed his gaze and placed the bamboo basket on his back to the ground. When he removed the leaves from the basket, Huzi and his assistant gasped. These items are difficult to obtain because people need coupons to purchase them. Huzi inspected the goods carefully and was surprised by the quality. He has been in this business for several years and has a good eye. These items can fetch very high prices. Not only is the quality very good, but it's also fresh. He saw 5 bottles of black sauce, opened the lids and smelled them. It has a unique fragrance. Feeling curious, he dipped his pinky finger and tasted the sauce. The moment he tasted it, his eyes lit up. It had a savory, tangy flavor, salty with a hint of sweetness and rich umami flavor. This is good stuff. He closed the lid and asked, "What kind of sauce is this?" "This is called oyster sauce. It is made using my family's secret recipe," Lu Jiu said with a smile. Huzi looked at the oyster sauce thoughtfully and asked, "How much do you plan to sell it for?" "Brother Huzi, I will be honest with you. To make these 5 bottles of sauce, I need a lot of oysters and other condiments, so I will sell a bottle for 80 yuan. Apart from these, I don't have any more oyster sauce," Lu Jiyu charged a high price to make a room in case Huzi wanted to bargain. Huzi was taken aback by the price and said, "The price is too high, I'm afraid I won't be able to sell it. Oysters themselves are a rare item. It took me a lot of effort and money to get the raw materials from the coastal city. The lowest I can offer is 75 yuan a bottle. Below this, I would rather eat it by myself," Lu Jiyu said calmly but firmly. Huzi thought for a while before he nodded and said, "All right, how about the other goods? We can price according to the market price for meat and eggs. White rice is 15 yuan per pound. Wild honey is 50 yuan per jar, 350 grams per jar. As for jujube cakes and dumplings, I will let Brother Huzi decide the price," Lu Jiyu said. As she spoke, she opened the bamboo basket and showed the contents to Huzi. Huzi knew at a glance that the jujube cakes and dumplings must taste good. He nodded and said, "The current price of lean meat is 12 yuan per kilogram, and the price of fat meat is 18 yuan per kilogram. Eggs are 12 cents each, and beef jerky is 25 yuan per kilogram. Jujube cake, I will give you 50 cents for a piece. Dumplings are 30 cents each." Lu Jiyu calculated it and said, "Then we will go according to your price." Huzi motioned to his assistant to move the things and said, "A total of 1,996 yuan. Li Chenmo was stunned when he heard the price. He knew that his wife's goods were of high quality, but he didn't expect Huzi to agree to the sky-high price. When he sold wild boar meat and mushrooms to the black market, he could earn at most a few hundred yuan from one transaction. He never expected the most expensive item would turn out to be oyster sauce. After counting the money, Huzi handed it to Lu Jiyu and said, "I've got what you want. Do you want to take it away today?" Looking at the money, Lu Jiyu did not take it and said, "Brother Huzi, I want to use the money to buy jade and antiques." Huzi was surprised that she wanted those forbidden items. He had so many of these things that it gave him a headache just looking at them. Not only is it hard to find a place to hide it, it's also hard to sell. Since she wants to buy it, of course Huzi is happy. "I didn't expect my sister-in-law to have such interest. Please follow me," Huzi said, taking her to the room where he stored the jade and antiques. After entering the room, Huzi opened several wooden boxes and said, "Sister-in-law, take a look and choose." Lu Jiyu nodded to him and went to look at the box. Inside the box, in addition to vases, paintings, and porcelains, there are also boxes of jade. Although she didn't know much about paintings, she still knew some famous paintings and porcelains from her previous life. She opened the painting one by one and found that it was well preserved. Some of the paintings are by famous painters from the Qing dynasty. There are even some cultural relics from the Song and Ming dynasties that have become historical relics in modern times which she saw in the museums. Although she didn't know if there would be counterfeits mixed in, she was willing to bet on it. After all, these things are considered dangerous and useless in this era. Therefore, the possibility of her buying a counterfeit is very low. After choosing the painting, she looked at the vase and porcelains. Most of the porcelain is the famous white and blue porcelain and celadon, and there are also some Ming dynasty white porcelain. She carefully examined one piece of porcelain after another, and then took out a few pieces that were actually considered a counterfeit of blue and white porcelain. After dealing with the antiques, she took out the small box from the wooden box and opened it. It contains a lot of jade. One look at these jade and she knew they were of good quality. After she inspected all the jades, she said, "Except those next to me, I want all of the rest." Huzi was surprised that she wanted to buy so much and said, "We can send it to your place for you." Li Chenmo shook his head and said, "No need to bother you, we will transport it ourselves." After that, Li Chenmo put the jadeite and the painting into the bamboo basket and covered it with leaves. Huzi glanced at them and said, "If you use a bamboo basket to transport it, it may take several days to transport it." "It doesn't matter, we'll get the rest when we come again," Li Chenmo said calmly. Before Huzi could say anything else, Lu Jiyu asked, "Brother Huzi, how is the bicycle? Is there any news?" After hearing her words, Huzi remembered that he had received the bicycle last night and said, "The bicycle arrived last night. Do you want to check it?" "Husband, you know this better than me. You should go check it out." Lu Jiyu squeezed Li Chenmo's palm and said. Understanding what she wanted to do, Li Chenmo nodded and said, "Wait for me here." "All right." Huzi took Li Chenmo to another room to check the bicycle, while the assistant went to store the meat and other items they bought from Lu Jiyu. When she was alone in the room, Lu Jiyu smiled as she took all the porcelain, jade and paintings into her own space, leaving only a few smaller pieces of porcelain which they would come to take tomorrow. As for the bamboo basket, it is filled with banana leaves. Even if Huzi saw it, he would not know that there were only leaves in the bamboo basket and no porcelain. While she was waiting, Li Chenmo was inspecting the new bicycle in the back room. He inspected every component of the bike and nodded with satisfaction. The bike is indeed new, even the wrapping is intact. Seeing that he was satisfied, Huzi said, "Brother, let's calculate the money now, shall we?" "Sure," Li Chenmo said lightly. Returning to the previous room, Huzi asked, "Do you have any bicycle coupons?" "Yes," Lu Jiu said, taking out 2 coupons from her pouch. "Since there is a coupon, you only need to pay me 250 yuan to buy a bicycle. As for other items, the total is 1,012 yuan. You only need to pay me 250 yuan, Huzi said while calculating the price. Then he gave 746 yuan to Li Chenmo and said at the same time, "Do you want more antiques in the future?" Li Chenmo glanced at his wife and saw her nodding. He looked at Huzi and said, "If the quality is good, we will accept it. We also want gold if possible." "Of course, when will you come again?" asked Huzi. After thinking about it, Li Chenmo said, "We can make some snacks and deliver it every day. As for other things, it depends on the situation." "No problem at all," Huzi nodded. He can make a lot of money just by selling snacks. He most enjoys doing business with straightforward people. The two left Huzi's place with a bicycle. They walked to a secluded corner and entered Lu Jiyu's space. After they changed their clothes and left bamboo baskets in the space, they left the black market on their bicycle. As they approached the village, they stopped on a deserted road. Lu Jiyu took out 2 cans of milk powder, 2 kilograms of meat, 1 kilogram of white flour, and 1 kilogram of white rice from the space. She also took out a bottle of sesame oil and placed it on the basket of the bicycle. They need to let the villagers see that they bought these items. Otherwise, they cannot explain why they can eat meat every day without buying it. When Li Chenmo saw those things appearing out of thin air, he was still amazed by the strange things in this world. After that, they rode their bicycles back. When the villagers saw Li Chenmo riding a new bicycle with Lu Jiu sitting behind him, their eyes nearly popped out and their jaws dropped to the ground. They knew that Li Chenmo had a high salary over the years, but they never knew how much money he had until they saw him riding that new bicycle today. This time, when the villagers saw them, in addition to jealousy, there was also greed in their eyes. Some of them are already thinking about how to borrow money from them. Of course, after borrowing money, they have no intention of paying it back. Li Chenmo rode towards the Lu family under the burning eyes of the villagers. Seeing Du Jaiwen coming from the other direction of the road, he snorted coldly and accelerated the bicycle. Before Du Jaiwen had time to call for Lu Jiyu, the bicycle had passed him and turned to the right at the corner of the road. Li Chenmo looked sideways and found that his wife was nodding while dozing off, clearly not noticing Du Jaiwen at all. He was afraid that she would fall, so he slowed down and said, "Wife, hold on tight, don't fall." Hearing his voice, Lu Jiyu opened her eyes and nodded. She stretched out her arms and put them around her husband's waist. As she hugged him, she put her hands into his cotton-padded jacket. She forgot that in this day and age, such behavior was inappropriate. Even through 2 layers of clothes, she could clearly feel her husband's hard muscles. She couldn't help but sigh as she rubbed Li Chenmo's abdominal muscles and said sleepily, "Husband, you really have such a good figure." Feeling his wife's hands touching his body so blatantly, Li Chenmo's body stiffened. He felt numbness spreading from his abdomen to his entire body before it went to a specific part of his body. He lowered his head and saw a pair of hands moving downwards in the coat. When she was about to touch the dangerous spot, he suddenly stopped the bicycle. He held her hand, turned to look at Lu Jiyu and said in a hoarse voice, "Wife, be good." Lu Jiyu finally felt something was wrong and raised her head, only to see her husband's deep eyes filled with strong desire. She was startled and quickly took her hand back, all her sleepiness disappearing instantly. That's not," she stammered, trying to excuse her shameless behavior. Li Chenmo saw her cheeks turning red and moved closer to her. He looked at her deeply and whispered hoarsely, "Wife, do you want me to take the next step tonight?" When Lu Jiyu heard his words, her mind went blank and she looked at him with wide eyes. She tried to explain that she had no other intention than to admire his good figure. However, her brain was not functioning at all at this time. "No, that's not what I meant," she stammered in panic. Li Chenmo chuckled lightly, touched her face as he looked at her meaningfully, and said with a smile, "I understand." After saying this, he turned around and continued pedaling the bicycle towards the Lu family's house. After a while, Lu Jiyu finally came to her senses and asked in panic, "Husband, what do you mean? What do you understand?" Hearing Lu Jiyu's questions, Li Chenmo found that his wife was so cute and couldn't help bursting out laughing. Although he longed for the day when she would completely become his, he knew that her body was still too weak. If they consummate their marriage and she becomes pregnant, it will affect her health and may be dangerous to both mother and the baby during the labor. What's more, she is still too young, so he will wait for her to grow up and would only occasionally tease her. Wife, grow up quickly, Li Chenmo said suddenly. Lu Jiu was stunned when she heard what he said. She understood what he meant and was really touched. She hugged his waist, leaned on his back and whispered, "All right," softly. Not long after, they arrived at the Lu family's house. Lu Wenyi and Lu Wenmu, who were playing in the front yard, saw their little aunt come in a new bicycle, and their eyes suddenly lit up. As they ran, they shouted, "Little uncle, little aunt." Seeing them running over, Lu Jiu said, "Don't run, the ground is slippery, you may fall." After hearing her words, they immediately slowed down and walked cautiously toward her. Lu Wenyi held Lu Wenmu's hand tightly as they walked, fearing his younger brother might slip and fall. Seeing that they were so afraid of their little aunt but still liked to cling to her, Li Chenmo shook his head in amusement. He took out the milk powder from the bicycle basket and followed his wife into the house. Lu Jiu entered the living room while holding the children's hands on both sides. When the children saw the milk powder brought by their little uncle, Lu Wenyi said, "Auntie, my brother and I still have some milk powder left. Can you give the milk powder to my sister? She doesn't want to eat porridge, she just wants to drink milk." Hearing this, Lu Jiu was surprised and asked, "Do you know why Zyro Feng refuses to eat porridge?" Lu Wenmu suddenly raised his hand and said in his milky voice, "Little aunt, Zyro Mu knows." Lu Jiu looked at him and asked with a smile, "Can Zyro Mu tell little aunt the reason?" Lu Wenmu nodded and said after thinking for a while, "My sister said she is very sad because my second aunt has a younger brother in her belly and will dislike her. She will only feel happy if she drinks milk." This time, Li Chenmo also smiled when he heard the children's words. He never knew children could be so smart and funny. She is only a 1-year-old baby, but she is already worried that her parents no longer love her as much as before. Lu Jiu frowned after hearing Lu Wenmu's words. Lu Wenfeng was a 1-year-old baby. If no one told her this, she would never have thought about the possibility her parents would dislike her after her brother was born. What's more, they don't know the gender of the newborn baby yet. She had no idea who was so malicious that they could say those words to a baby. Although Lu Jiu was angry, she still smiled at the children and said, "Well, your little aunt bought 2 cans of milk powder. We will give one to Zyro Feng and one to Zyro Yi and Zyro Mu to share." After thinking about it, Lu Wenyi and Lu Wenmu nodded and said, "Thank you, little uncle. Thank you, little aunt." Not long after, Chen Anwen entered the living room and said, "Jiu, brother-in-law, what brings you here?" "Sister-in-law, we just came back from town. We buy some milk powder for the children," Lu Jiu said. Seeing the milk powder, Chen Anwen said helplessly, "You just sent some to us not long ago. Why did you send it again? You should keep it for yourself. Your body is weak, and drinking more milk is good for your health." "Sister-in-law, you don't have to worry about me. By the way, where are the others?" Lu Jiu asked. "Father and mother went to visit our uncle. Your eldest brother and second brother went to the river to catch fish," Chen Anwen said. "Where is my second sister-in-law?" Lu Jiu asked again. "Second sister-in-law is asleep. This time her pregnancy is not easy. She always vomits and can't eat anything," Chen Anwen said worriedly. Lu Jiu frowned and asked, "Did my second brother bring my second sister-in-law over for a checkup?" "They did. The doctor said it was normal and just told her to rest and eat as much as possible." Lu Jiu nodded after listening to her words and said nothing more. Considering that Wang Muxiao is pregnant, she must be experiencing the severe symptoms of morning sickness at this moment. As Wang Muxiao was asleep, Lu Jiu did not visit her. The two chatted for a while and then left the Lu family's house. After returning to their house, Lu Jiu went to the kitchen to prepare dinner, while Li Chenmo went to clean up the chicken coop. At the same time in the Yang family, Zyro Yiking was locked in the room by Mother Yang. She sat on the Kang bed and looked at Mother Yang coldly through the window, full of hatred. She has secretly asked Su Anna to send a telegram to her brother, but until today there is still no news from her brother. When she thought of the way that bastard Yang Lichao looked at her, she had the urge to stab him to death. How dare he lusted after her? Just when she was thinking about how to kill and torture him, the door was pushed open and Yang Lichao walked in with a bowl of porridge and a small plate of pickles. He looked at Zyro Yiking and said, "Wife, you should eat something, otherwise you will get sick." "Shut up, who is your wife?" Zyro Yiking said angrily when she heard him call her that. Warning, Arsene, please skip this chapter if you dislike it. Thank you. Yang Lichao was not angry because of her rude behavior. He put the porridge and pickles on the small table in the middle of the kang bed and said, "You haven't eaten for 2 days. Every time I see your weak and pale face, my heart aches. At least you should eat a little." The more she listened to his hypocritical words, the angrier Zyro Yiking became. If he really cared about her, he should let her go. He's just a jerk who pretends to be a gentleman. He's just trash, good for nothing. When Yang Lichao was just sitting on the kang bed, she suddenly overturned the table. Prank! In an instant, the food was scattered on the kang bed and the floor, the bowl was broken, and the table was thrown to the floor. Seeing the mess and waste of food, Yang Lichao felt angry in his heart. He stood up and suddenly waved his palm towards Zyro Yiking. Slap! This slap was not light at all, as he was so angry that he had no control over his strength. With just one slap, Zyro Yiking fell onto the kang bed with a loud noise. The corner of her lip was split and blood was dripping down. "Bitch, how dare you waste my food? While I'm still giving you a face, you better behave well." Yang Lichao pointed at her and shouted. Because of the sudden fall, Zyro Yiking's clothes were lifted up, revealing her soft and pale waist. As soon as Yang Lichao saw her slender waist, his blood rushed to his head and lower body as he thought of her naked body in the shower. He licked his lips, walked over and locked the door. Click! Zyro Yiking was still dazed by the heavy slap and did not notice that the door was locked. When she came to her senses, she saw that Yang Lichao had taken off his shirt and was taking off his pants. When her eyes fell on his sunken lower chest, her eyes widened in horror. She moves back, trying to distance herself from him while looking at him with disgust, hatred and fear. Seeing that Yang Lichao had taken off his pants and was standing naked in front of her, Zyro Yiking screamed as she closed her eyes. "Ah, what do you want? Don't come closer. You are disgusting." Seeing her fear and panic, Yang Lichao's desire became even stronger. These days he puts up with her arrogance and disrespectful words. He even let her drink thick porridge while he only drank rice soup. He also promised not to let her work in the fields as long as she allowed him to join her household registration and become a city resident. But she was not grateful at all. She even cursed him to have an early death. Today, he will let her see who is the master. He laughed wickedly and walked towards her slowly step by step. He licked his lips as he looked at her from head to toe and said, "Wife, you don't have to be so excited. You know exactly what I want. As my wife, you should serve me well." As soon as he finished speaking, he pounced on her. "Let me go, Yang Lichao, you bastard." "Stop." Zyro Yiking struggled desperately and shouted at the top of her lungs, hoping that someone would notice Yang Lichao's actions and come to save her. Slap, slap, slap. When her foot kicked Yang Lichao in the abdomen, Yang Lichao slapped her several times and shouted, "Shut up. You'd better be obedient and serve me well, or don't blame me for treating you badly." Zyro Yiking was beaten until she was so dizzy and her ears were ringing that she could only lie down weakly. Seeing that she finally stopped struggling, Yang Lichao grabbed her collar and tore it into pieces. Rape! The shirt was torn and buttons were flying everywhere. Seeing her soft body was only covered with a thin white vest, Yang Lichao breathed heavily. He quickly tore off the rest of her clothes and caressed her body impatiently. "Let me go, don't, please," Zyro Yiking said weakly, still struggling desperately. But the difference in strength between men and women is obvious. Her hands were clasped by Yang Lichao and her body was pressed under him. She could not escape and could only cry while being defiled by him. When she felt him rushing into her body, Zyro Yiking let out a scream. He was not gentle to her at all, which injured her. "Ah!" Tears flowed from the corners of her eyes when she felt a sharp pain, as if she was being torn apart. Before she could adapt to him, Yang Lichao made violent movements, making her wounds more serious. Finally, having a taste of a woman, Yang Lichao was ecstatic and full of energy. The quilt was thrown to the floor and he penetrated her body again and again, as if losing his mind. His eyes were bloodshot and he looked like a wild beast. Zyro Yiking felt severe pain coming from her body, and her eyes slowly dimmed. She lay expressionless on the bed, biting her lip hard until it bled. Her stomach churned every time he moved due to disgust and hatred. She gripped the sheets so hard that her fingers turned white and her nails broken. At this moment, she felt that she had lost not only her innocence, but also something very important. Something that made her feel scared about the future. After a long time, she didn't even have the strength to whimper. Mother Yang, who was sweeping the front yard, heard her shouting and commotion from the bedroom and spat, "Bitch, now you can only obediently become my son's wife. If you dare to be arrogant again, see how I deal with you." When the sky darkened and Zyro Yiking fainted, the commotion in the room finally stopped. Mother Yang saw Yang Lichao come out of the bedroom in high spirits and said with a smile, "Son, you have to work hard so that your mother can hold her grandson as soon as possible." Yang Lichao grinned and said, "Mother, don't worry. I will let you hold your grandson as soon as possible." "Good, good, good," Yang's mother nodded happily. "Mother has prepared hot water for you, you go and wash up," she added. When Yang Lichao heard his mother's words, he turned to look at the unconscious Zyro Yiking and said, "Mother, can you help me clean up her body? She is my wife after all, and we will sleep together from now on." Mother Yang was very unhappy when her son asked her to serve Zyro Yiking, but thinking about how long her son had been doing the deeds, and that woman might already have her grandson in her belly, she finally nodded reluctantly and said, "Okay, leave it to your mother." With his desire satisfied, Yang Lichao was in a good mood and went to wash up. As for Zyro Yiking, her lower body was torn and in a mess. Seeing her like this, Mother Yang clicked her tongue and said, "Like father, like son. Bitch, you are so lucky to be married to my son. Look at the happy look on your face, you are such a slut." Mother Yang spat when she saw Zyro Yiking's flushed face. Mother Yang thought she was enjoying the deeds, but the truth was that she had a fever due to injuries and psychological trauma. At this time, neither Mother Yang nor Yang Lichao thought their behavior was a crime, but felt that it was a matter of course. Since they gave Zyro Yiking a place to live and food to eat, she should listen to them, and if she dared to disobey them, she should be taught a lesson. Meanwhile, Lu Jiyu, who had already fallen asleep, suddenly woke up with a scream. She sat blankly on the Kang bed with a pale face. Cold sweat covered her forehead and back as she gasped for breath. Not long after, Li Chenmo rushed in from outside in panic. When he saw his wife's pale face, he walked over and hugged her. He patted her back and whispered, "It's okay, I'm here, don't be afraid." After a while, she came back to her senses and said tremblingly, "Husband. I'm here, what's wrong, did you have a nightmare?" As he spoke, he patted her back to comfort her. Lu Jiyu nodded and buried her face in his chest. Just now, she was having a dream about this world. She doesn't know why, but as the trajectory of the plot changes too much, the world finally collapses. The original female lead has lost her halo as a heroine and has become a minor supporting role. Without the halo of the male and female protagonists to support the world soon fell into chaos and was destroyed by a sudden natural disaster. When the natural disaster hits the Earth, she is forced to accept the fact that although this world is a parallel world, it is also a novel world. The male and female lead are destined to be together. If they are not together, the world will be destroyed. She hugged Li Chenmo tightly, fearing that if she let go, he would disappear from her side forever. She is a nobody who doesn't even have a name in the novel. What qualifications does she have to be with the male lead? Li Chenmo didn't know what dreams made his wife so scared. When he hugged her, he was overwhelmed by her trembling body. When he felt the moisture on his chest, a trace of surprise flashed in his eyes. He lowered his head and saw her shaking shoulders. "Wife, why are you crying? Can you tell me what your dream is?" Li Chenmo asked distressedly. Lu Jiyu shook her head. She didn't know how to tell him about it. She could still tell him about her space, but she could never tell him that the world he lived in was actually a world of fiction. No one can accept that their reality, their life, is actually a fictional world created by rows of words. Li Chenmo let out a long sigh, hugged her tighter, and asked, "Wife, do you know that I joined the army when I was 13 years old?" Lu Jiyu remembered this information was written in the novel, and nodded. "I was very scared when I left the village for the first time and went to a distant city. I didn't know if I could come back alive, and I didn't know if I could see the little girl who chased me and called me Brother Chenmo again," Li Chenmo said with a smile. Lu Jiyu didn't know why he told her this, but listening to his voice, she felt her fear slowly lessened. "But when I actually got there and had my first battle, I didn't feel as scared as I thought I would. It wasn't until I got back to the barracks that I felt a little bit scared. Luckily, I survived. Day after day, I counted the time until I could go home to visit my family and the little girl. But when I came back, before I knew it, the little girl had grown up," Li Chenmo said with a sigh. "When I noticed my feelings for this little girl, I tried to create the best possible future for her and me. But when I was ready and she finally grew up, she fell in love with another man. At that time, my heart felt like it had been gouged out by a dull knife, and it hurt so much that I couldn't sleep or eat for a long time. Without her, I feel that my life is meaningless. It's like a part of my soul has died," he said as he let out a chuckle. Hearing Li Chenmo's self-deprecating laughter, Lu Jiyu frowned. She didn't know who this little girl he was talking about was. However, she felt very uncomfortable and sad. She knew she was jealous, and it was irrational to be jealous of his past, but she couldn't help it. This feeling is so terrible. Li Chenmo looked at his wife dotingly and said, "Fortunately, God still had mercy on me and allowed me to get her back." When Lu Jiyu heard this, she raised her head and looked at him with wide eyes. When she saw his eyes, she knew he was telling her the story between him and Lu Jiyu. She didn't expect that the male lead would have such deep feelings for his white moonlight, but if he loved her deeply, how could he be with the female lead Zyro Yiking? Unfortunately, she had no answer to this question, because she died before finishing the novel. Lee Chenmo observed his wife's expression and breathed a sigh of relief when he saw that she was no longer crying. He leaned over, pecked her soft lips, and said gently, "So, my wife, if you feel scared, you can tell your husband. You have me here, and I won't let anything happen to you." It took Lu Jiu a while to react. She finally nodded and said, "Husband, I'm thirsty." "I'll get you some water," Lee Chenmo touched her head and said. After he left the room, Lu Jiu took a deep breath and muttered to herself, "It's just a dream. Nothing will happen." Because of his wife's nightmare, Lee Chenmo decided to finish his unfinished work tomorrow and go to bed early. After locking the door, he hugged his wife and went to sleep. Early the next morning, Lu Jiu woke up before dawn and poked her husband's chest. Not long after, Lee Chenmo woke up and looked at his wife in a daze. He took her into his arms, closed his eyes and said, "Wife, why did you get up so early?" "Husband, it's time for us to get up. We need to visit the black market again. Our things are still at Huzi's place," Lu Jiu said softly. "MHMM." After a while, he finally opened his eyes and asked, "Can we wash up in your space? It's more comfortable there." Lu Jiu smiled and said, "Okay." The next moment, the two of them entered the space and appeared on Lu Jiu's soft bed. Lee Chenmo sighed and asked, "Do you want to take a bath first, or should I take a bath first?" Hearing his question, Lu Jiu blushed, and some pictures that were not suitable for children emerged in her mind. She quickly pushed him away and said, "I'm going to wash up first." Lee Chenmo let go of her and looked at her back doubtfully. He didn't know what he did or said to make his wife so shy and run away. He sat on the bed blankly until Lu Jiu finished taking a shower. While Lee Chenmo was taking a shower, Lu Jiu went to the kitchen. She had prepared the empanadas and scallion pancakes yesterday. They just needed to be fried today. While she was frying empanadas, she cooked a pot of shrimp porridge. When the empanadas were ready, she squeezed fresh orange juice and heated up the soy milk. By the time Lee Chenmo finished taking a shower, breakfast was ready. He walked up to her, leaned over, and kissed her lips. At first, whenever Lee Chenmo kissed Lu Jiu's lips, Lu Jiu would be a little shy. But after being kissed by him a few times, she got used to it. Now, if he doesn't give her a good morning kiss and a good night kiss, she feels uneasy, like something is missing. Habits are indeed scary. They can change a person a lot. "Husband, help me bring the porridge to the table," Lu Jiu said as she poured orange juice into the glass. While Lee Chenmo likes to drink warm soy milk every day, she prefers to drink juice. They finished their breakfast and prepared the items for sale before leaving the space. When they rode their bicycles to town, there were stars in the sky. With Lee Chenmo blocking the wind, Lu Jiu didn't feel too cold. More importantly, she hugged her husband's waist and felt very warm. She is very satisfied with her current life. Riding bicycles, they arrived in town in 20 minutes. When they arrived at a desolate corner, Lu Jiu put the bicycle in her own space and took out the bamboo baskets she had prepared before. Before walking into the black market, she took Lee Chenmo's hand and asked, "Husband, how is your leg?" While she still gave her husband a foot bath and massage, Lee Chenmo had been riding a bicycle for 2 days. From town to village and from village to town, she sat in the back seat. Even though she was considered thin, she was still worried that her husband's legs would hurt. Seeing her worry, Lee Chenmo smiled and said, "Wife, I'm already fine. If you're worried, we can go to the county town's hospital for a checkup later." Lu Jiu nodded and said, "Then let's go to the hospital to check your leg later. It's best to make a complete recovery before spring plowing." "Okay." The two of them covered half of their faces with scarves and walked into the dark and narrow alley. Perhaps because it was still early, the old man was not seen. They came to Huzi's place and knocked on the door. After coming twice, the young man let them in without saying anything. He even treated them more politely than before. After all, what they brought yesterday was a hot seller's stuff. Their customers are not only those factory workers, but also high-level government officials and wealthy families. Therefore, when they get something good, Huozi will first give it to those rich and powerful people to build relationships. When Huzi and his assistant visited the richest family in the county town yesterday, the old lady bought everything at once. Not only did she buy meat, grains, and sauces, but also all of the jujube cakes and frozen dumplings. He earns more than 300 yuan in one trip. Huozi didn't know if the news about him selling good quality items came from that family or not, but last night, several people from several wealthy families came to order jujube cakes and frozen dumplings. While Huozi was happy about this big order, he was a little worried that Li Chenmo and Lu Jiyu wouldn't come today. So when he saw Li Chenmo walking in with Lu Jiyu, he stood up suddenly and greeted them enthusiastically. "Brother, sister-in-law, you are here." Huzi thought that Li Chenmo would be flattered by his warm welcome, but when he saw Li Chenmo frowning and looking wary, he was stunned. Lu Jiyu smiled instead when she saw Huzi's enthusiasm. She could guess the change in Huzi's attitude had something to do with her items. It seems like her stuff is sold at really high prices. In the face of huge profits, most people will lower their pride in order to obtain more benefits. What's more, Huzi is one of those people who dares to take this road for money in this era. Money may be more important to him than his self-esteem. The awkwardness only lasted a few seconds. When they put the bamboo baskets on the table, Huzi already regained his composure and asked, "Brother, what did you bring today?" Li Chenmo glanced at him and took away the leaves covering the items in the bamboo basket. Huzi felt a little disappointed when he saw that there were no grains, no meat, and only a few jars. Thinking that meat and grains were hard to come by, his disappointment disappeared the next moment. It is impossible to ask Li Chenmo to have meat and grain for sale at all times. If they could do it, he would doubt them instead. Just as Li Chenmo took out the jars from the bamboo basket, Lu Jiyu also took out empanadas and scallion pancakes wrapped in oil paper, as well as 2 jars of meat sauce from her bamboo basket. In addition to empanadas and scallion pancakes, there are jujube cakes and frozen dumplings. When Huzi saw the food, his eyes lit up and he said, "Sister-in-law, several people want to buy your jujube cakes and frozen dumplings for the Lantern Festival. Are you willing to accept the order?" "Sure, my husband and I will not refuse money. Brother Huzi, can you tell us how much the order is? We will try to complete it before the Lantern Festival," Lu Jiyu said with a smile. After hearing what she said, Huzi felt happy and quickly handed a piece of paper to Lu Jiyu. Lu Jiyu was speechless when she saw what was written on the paper. She thinks since Huzi is good at arithmetic, he can at least write simple words. However, when she saw the piece of paper, all her expectations were shattered. Indeed, education in this era was poor. There is a drawing of juju cakes and dumplings, and a few lines of words beside it, which can be said to be the number of orders. Although simple, it is easy to understand. Lu Jiyu folded the paper and put it in her pocket. After confirming the order, Huzi pointed at the jar and asked, "Brother, sister-in-law, what is this?" Li Chenmo opened the lid and said, "Soy milk, freshly made." The moment he opened the lid, a soybean aroma with a hint of sweetness filled the room. In the past, soy milk was made by Lu Jiyu manually, but when she stored the soy milk in her space's warehouse, it was listed in the factory and could be produced. So she no longer has to make it by hand, she just has to get it from the warehouse. "Can I try?" Huzi asked after swallowing his saliva. "Of course," Li Chenmo nodded. Huzi brought a small cup, and Li Chenmo gave him a ladle. This ladle is made of bamboo by Li Chenmo. A ladle can fill a small cup. Huzi took a sip and savored the taste. The soy milk is still warm. After drinking the soy milk, he felt warm all over inside. He put the cup on the table and asked, "How much does it cost for a jar?" Lu Jiyu has calculated the ingredients according to the current market price and said, "1 jar is equivalent to 200 ladles, and it costs 30 yuan per jar." Huzi calculated and nodded. A ladle can fill a cup, and each cup has a capital of 15 cents. Soy milk is made from soybeans and sugar, and the ingredients are not cheap. If he sells them for 25 cents a cup, he will be able to make money, albeit not much. "All right, I'll take it all." Today they brought 6 jars of soy milk, 60 empanadas, 60 scallion pancakes, 40 pieces of jujube cakes, and 60 frozen dumplings. A total of 314 yuan. Huzi handed the money to Li Chenmo. After getting the money, they left Huzi's place. Before leaving the black market, they went to the place where the old man usually waited. As soon as they walked into the alley, they saw the old man already waiting there. Seeing them coming, the old man's eyes lit up. While he was anxious, he did not go over and wait at his place. When Lu Jiyu came over, he asked, "Girl, is that person your brother? He's not bad. My youngest daughter is still single. Maybe we can become a family." Lu Jiyu said displeasedly, "Uncle, that man is my husband." The old man was startled. Although he could only see her eyes and nose, he was sure that the girl was still young. But that man exudes an aura that only a mature man who has experienced a lot can have. He looked at Lu Jiyu and said, "I didn't expect you to like an older man." Lu Jiyu doesn't like others commenting on her relationship with her husband, especially after the nightmare yesterday. She felt insecure and threatened by the novel plot. So she was displeased with the old man and said, "Uncle, if you just want to gossip, then I'm sorry, I don't have time." Seeing that the girl was angry and wanted to leave, the old man quickly said, "Girl, wait, I just want to ask, why are you so angry?" Lu Jiu snorted and said, "Uncle, today I brought ginseng, wolfberry, mushrooms, and wild honey. Do you still want to buy them?" After hearing her words, the old man's hands trembled with excitement. Due to lack of medicine and poor living conditions, his grandson's condition worsened day by day. He had a persistent cough and a fever. Using ginseng and wild honey, he can make ginseng wine for him. "I want it, of course I want it," the old man nodded heavily. Lu Jiu opened the bamboo basket and showed him the contents. When the old man saw wild ginseng, he was so excited that he almost fainted. This wild ginseng was at least 300 years old. He glanced at Lu Jiu and wondered whether the girl was ignorant or really wanted to help him. "Girl, do you know how old this ginseng is?" the old man asked. Thinking that the old man wanted to know the quality of ginseng, Lu Jiu answered honestly, "It is at least 300 years old, or even longer." A trace of surprise flashed in the old man's eyes, and he looked at her solemnly. Since the downfall of the Mo family, his relatives and friends have refused to lend a helping hand to them. When he thought there were no good people in the world, he met this girl. It seems there are still good people. It's just that he wasn't so lucky and didn't meet them before. Today he brought a set of jewelry made of imperial jade. This set of jade is his wife's dowry and was passed down from her ancestors. It can be said to be his wife's family heirloom. He was unwilling to trade it for food. But today, the only thing worth exchanging for ginseng is this set of jade jewelry. He finally took out the box from his clothes and sighed, "Girl, this is my wife's family heirloom. It has a history of more than 300 years. If it were not for my grandson's illness, I would never exchange it for anything." Lu Jiu took the box and took a look. Her eyes widened in disbelief. This set of jewelry is known as one of the lost historical relics from the Tang dynasty. It has a history of more than 1,000 years. When it was discovered, a billionaire bought it at auction for $380 million and donated it to the government. She didn't expect that this old man actually had a very powerful wife. When the old man saw that she was silent, he became anxious and said, "Girl, I didn't lie to you. This set of jewelry is the best set I own." After calming down her heartbeats, Lu Jiu nodded and said, "This is indeed a good set of jewelry. I like it very much. You can tell me what medicinal materials you need, and I will try my best to find them for you. Just think of it as my appreciation for this set of jade." The old man didn't expect that she not only accepted the jewelry in exchange for wild ginseng, but also wanted to help him. "This is great. If possible, I need more wild honey," the old man said. Lu Jiu thought for a while and said, "Okay, but I can't guarantee you that I will get a lot of it. Wild honey is hard to find." "I understand, girl, thank you so much," the old man nodded. Lu Jiu said nothing and handed him the things in the bamboo basket. Unlike before when the old man just stuffed the food into his clothes, this time he wrapped the ginseng in a clean handkerchief and carefully put it into his clothes. As for mushrooms, wolfberries, and wild honey, he wrapped them in an old cloth and held them in his hand. Before leaving, he looked at Lu Jiu gratefully. After the old man left, Li Chenmo came over and whispered, "Wife, it's time for us to leave." Lu Jiu nodded. They walked towards the desolate corner and entered Lu Jiu's place. After changing their clothes, they put the bamboo baskets in the space and took out the bicycle. They left the black market on the bicycle. By the time they left the market, the sun was already rising over the horizon. Instead of going back to the village, they went to the county town. At the same time, at Lu's house, Pan Magia had woken up and was about to leave. Coming out of the room, she knocked on Mother Lu's door. Not long after, Mother Lu came out and was surprised to see her. "Magia, do you want to go out?" Mother Lu asked. "The sun has just risen, and it's still early to go out. There was no need to get up so early unless she wanted to go to the black market." Pan Magia nodded and said, "Aunt Lu, I'm going to the county town. My friend's brother was discharged from the hospital today. I'll pick him up. Is there anything you need to buy? I can buy it for you." Mother Lu thought about it and found that there was nothing missing at home. So she shook her head and said, "We don't lack anything now. You have to be more careful when you go out." "I understand, then Aunt Lu, I'll take my leave first," Pan Magia nodded and said with a smile. Mother Lu nodded and went to the kitchen. At this moment, Mother Lu already regarded Pan Magia as her own daughter. Not only because Pan Magia helped them without saying anything, but also because Pan Magia had saved Lu Jiu many times. If it weren't for her warning, Lu Jiu might have met with mishap. Pan Magia left Lu's house on the bicycle while humming a song. When she went to borrow a bicycle from Comrade Han yesterday, He actually told her that he was willing to pick up Ling Yun on her behalf, but because they were not familiar with each other, Pan Meijia rejected his offer. As she rode her bicycle, several villagers greeted her, especially aunts with unmarried sons at home. When they kept telling her how good their son was, she still didn't take the hint at all, just as she did now. Meijia, where are you going so early in the morning? A villager asked her with a smile. Good morning, Aunt Wang, I'm going to the county town. Pan Meijia stopped her bicycle and greeted her politely. Do you want to buy something? Aunt Wang asked again. No, I'm going to pick up my friend from the hospital, Pan Meijia said with a smile. Oh, my son works at the county post office. If you need anything, just go to him. He is 23 years old and he is never close with any girl. At his age, he is still so shy when talking to girls. You see, because of his marriage matter, my hair turns all white. I don't know when I will see him bring a good girl home. The villager sighed. Pan Meijia didn't know why these aunts liked to tell her about their family affairs so much. Although she was feeling awkward, she still listened to her chattering. After listening to the villagers' complaints about her good son for a while, Pan Meijia let out an awkward chuckle and said, Aunt Wang, it's getting late. My friends are still waiting for me, so I'll take my leave now. Aunt Wang realized that she had held her for too long and said, Oh, look at me. Keep talking until I forget the time. Go and do your business and be careful on the road. Okay, goodbye, Aunt Wang, Pan Meijia said with a smile before leaving. After she left, Aunt Wang was still standing there, looking at her back with a smile. When Pan Meijia first arrived in Zai village, everyone thought she would be arrogant and lazy like other female educated youths, who knew that when Lu Jiu got married, she would also come to help. Only then, they finally know that she was different from the others. The more they interact with her, the more they like her personality. Although she can be outspoken at times, she is diligent, generous, and kind. Aunt Wang hopes to bring Pan Meijia back as her daughter-in-law. While riding the bicycle, Pan Meijia suddenly felt a chill on her back and shivered. She rubbed her nose and tightened her cotton-padded jacket and scarf. The weather has been warm recently, and she went out without a hat, so her long braids flowed in the wind. Almost an hour later, she finally arrived at the county town. When she went to the hospital, she looked at the state-run restaurant. Thinking of the hot soup dumplings she ate before, she swallowed. She should come later for breakfast before heading back to the village. After making the decision, she happily went to the hospital. After parking her bicycle, Pan Meijia went to the counter to pay Ling Yun's hospitalization fee, and then went to Ling Yun's ward. Since it was still early, there was no one at the counter yet. The nurse saw her, smiled and asked, Comrade, is there anything I can do for you? Good morning, comrade. I want to pay the hospitalization fee for Ling Yun, a patient in ward 118, Pan Meijia said as she took out her purse. Please wait a minute, the nurse said and went to check the information files. After a while, the nurse took out a piece of paper, filled in the data, and calculated the cost. After that, she put the piece of paper and a bag of medicine on the counter and said, Comrade, here are the payment details. The total hospitalization fee is 39 yuan and the medicine fee is 55 yuan. Pan Meijia nodded, paid, took the medicine bag and asked, Comrade, can I find the doctor in charge of the patient? Of course, the patient is under Dr. Yu's care. You can find Dr. Yu in his office on the second floor, the nurse said. Okay, thank you, comrade, Pan Meijia nodded and said with a smile. You're welcome. After paying the hospital fee, she went to the second floor and read the nameplates on the door one by one. After a while, she found the doctor's office and knocked on the door. Not long after, a man's hoarse voice came from inside, Come in. Pan Meijia opened the door and said, Dr. Yu, good morning. Dr. Yu stopped yawning suddenly when he saw a young girl walking into his office. He awkwardly lowered his raised hands, coughed to hide his embarrassment and said, Good morning, comrade, please have a seat. Pan Meijia suppressed her laughter and closed the door. The doctor looks like a panda with dark circles under his eyes. After sitting down, she said, Doctor, I am a friend of Ling Yun, the patient in ward 118. Dr. Yu nodded, took out a folder, and said with a smile, He can be discharged from the hospital today. Do you have anything to ask? Is there anything I should pay attention to about his injuries? Pan Meijia asked. Try to avoid eating heavy-flavored, greasy foods. Eat more meat, fish, chicken, beans, or nuts to replenish the blood. Don't let his wounds get wet until the wounds scab. Also, don't lift heavy objects for at least 3 weeks. Although his bones are not broken, his muscles and joints are injured. The dressing must be changed once a day, Dr. Yu said after looking at Ling Yun's information. Pan Meijia nodded, remembering every word of Dr. Yu. After repeating it several times, she had memorized it. Dr. Yu saw her muttering alone and said with a smile, Don't worry, as long as he follows my instructions and takes the medicine, he will recover. Hearing the doctor's words, Panmagia nodded and said, Thank you, doctor. Then I'll take my leave first. You're welcome, Dr. Yu nodded and made a gesture of sending her off. After leaving Dr. Yu's office, Panmagia went to Ling Yun's ward. When she arrived at his hospital room, she found the door open. Before entering the ward, she heard a woman's voice coming from inside. Brother Yun, why didn't you tell me you were injured? If I hadn't met Zyro Li, I wouldn't have known you were in the hospital. Do you know how worried I was when I couldn't find you at home? The woman's voice was coquettish with a hint of complaint. It looked like she had been crying for a long time, and there was worry in her voice. Panmagia stopped outside the room and stood behind the door for a while before looking into the ward. Ling Yun looked out the window and ignored the girl, but the girl kept talking despite being ignored by him. When the girl turned around to pour him water, Panmagia finally saw her face clearly. She's a very beautiful girl. Her face is only the size of a palm, with willow eyebrows, a delicate nose, small red lips and fair skin. Her eyes were a little red and swollen from crying. At this moment, Panmagia felt it would be awkward if she entered the ward. Since someone is already accompanying him, it shouldn't be a problem for her to leave, right? They should be able to return to the village on their own. She looked thoughtfully at the receipt and the medicine in her hand. When she looked up, she saw a nurse walking in her direction. Her eyes lit up and she walked to the nurse. Hello, comrade, she said with a smile. The nurse stopped, looked at her and said, Hello. Comrade, can you help me bring this medicine and the receipt to the patient in room 118? Panmagia asked. The nurse glanced at the door 5 meters away from them in confusion. She can give it to the patient herself because she's already here. Is it necessary to ask her for help? Although she didn't know what this comrade thought, she was not busy and agreed. Okay. Panmagia breathed a sigh of relief, handed the receipt and medicine to the nurse, and said at the same time, Thank you, comrade. It's nothing, the nurse smiled and walked to Ling Yun's ward. Seeing the nurse entering the room, Panmagia turned around and left the hospital. On the other side, Ling Yun turned around suddenly when he heard the sound of the door being pushed open. His eyes were full of expectation, but when his eyes fell on an unfamiliar face, his eyes dimmed instantly. It's not her, when will she come, he thought. He glanced at the door to see if anyone else would come in, but when the nurse came over with a bag of medicine, he knew that the nurse was alone. Comrade, this is your medicine. You need to finish all the medicine and change the wound dressing every day. After finishing the medicine, you need to come back for another checkup, the nurse said as she handed the bag to the woman. Before the woman could take the bag, Ling Yun had already reached out to stop her. He took the bag, looked inside and saw the receipt. He raised his head and asked, Comrade, who pays for the hospital bills? I don't know who paid your bill, but I met a young girl outside, and she asked me to give this to you, the nurse said with a smile. After hearing her words, Ling Yun's eyes flashed. After a while he said, Thank you, comrade. No problem, you can be discharged when you are ready, the nurse said before leaving the ward. After the nurse left, the woman said, Brother Yun, do you know who paid your hospital bills? Ling Yun glanced at her and said, You can go back, I don't need your help. Brother Yun, what do you mean? Do you know how worried I am? How can you ask me to leave when you are so weak? The girl said aggrievedly. Sheng Xiaohong, please stop disturbing me. I have told you many times that it is impossible between us. I don't want others to misunderstand me, so please respect yourself, Ling Yun said coldly. What's wrong with me? Okay, I admit that I am a widow and have a daughter, but my feelings for you are sincere. You are 30 years old, don't you want to have a family of your own? Sheng Xiaohong asked with red eyes, biting her lip, looking pitiful as if she was being bullied. Ling Yun put on his shoes and made the bed with one hand. Then he packed everything into a bag while treating her like air. Sheng Xiaohong pulled his arm aggrievedly and asked, Why are you treating me like this? Do you already have someone? Ling Yun pushed her hand away and said, It's none of your business. You should stop now, don't force me to be rude to you. He didn't answer her question, but Sheng Xiaohong had already concluded that someone had seduced him. She looked at the medicine bag and said, Is it her? Who is it? Tell me and I will return the money to her. Ling Yun's eyes turned cold at her words and asked, When you went out, did you leave your brain at home? Or are you too stupid to understand human words? You are nothing to me and we have no relationship. If you continue to be this crazy, don't blame me for reporting you to the officers for harassing me. Don't show up in front of me again. After saying this, he continued to pack his things. Chapter 158, No longer acquaintances but friends 3. After hearing his words, Sheng Xiaohong's eyes widened with disbelief on her face. They grew up together and she thought they were childhood sweethearts. How could he say they didn't have anything to do with each other? It must be because of that woman. It's all her fault. Anger and jealousy surged out of her heart, and Sheng Xiaohong lost her mind. She swept the medicine bag on the table to the floor and screamed, "Ling Yun, you can't do this to me." Prank! When Ling Yun heard the sound of broken glass, he turned around suddenly and saw the broken ointment on the ground. He looked at Sheng Xiaohong coldly. For the first time in his life, he felt the urge to kill someone. He clenched his fists tightly to prevent himself from strangling the woman in front of him. "Get out," he said through gritted teeth. "I won't leave. Why should I leave? Everyone already knows that I like you. You can't treat me like this," Sheng Xiaohong screamed. "Sheng Xiaohong, I never hit a woman, so don't force me to hit you. I don't care what others say or think. From the beginning, I have no feelings for you. You can only blame yourself for your own illusion. Now scram," Ling Yun shouted to her. This time, Sheng Xiaohong was startled by his ferocity. She didn't expect that one day she would be treated like this by him. Not long after, the nurse came in and asked, "What's going on? This is a hospital. If you want to quarrel, go to another place." As soon as the nurse finished her words, Sheng Xiaohong turned around and ran out of the ward crying. The nurse frowned and looked at the two of them sternly before leaving. When he was alone, Ling Yun took a few deep breaths before calming down. He squatted down and cleaned up the mess before going to the counter to buy medicine again. Standing at the entrance of the hospital, he looked at the bright sky and sighed. He didn't expect that his politeness was now giving him a headache. It seems that not everyone deserves his courtesy. It's so troublesome when women go crazy. Ling Yun walked alone, lost in thought. As he walked past the Statron restaurant, his steps stopped abruptly. He blinked a few times before turning his head to look inside. Pan Magia was sitting on one of the chairs, eating soup dumplings with relish. He hesitated for a moment, then turned and walked into the restaurant. When he stood at the table, Pan Magia was still busy eating and didn't notice his presence at all. He looked at her with complicated eyes. She is indeed different from others. It was as if he was nothing at all in her eyes. Feeling the urge to touch his face to confirm whether he was still handsome, Ling Yun chuckled. What on earth is he thinking about? Pan Magia was startled when she heard the laughter. She raised her head and looked at Ling Yun. For a moment, she didn't know if the person in front of her was real or an illusion. She blinked, swallowed the dumpling and said, "Hello, comrade. Are you coming to have breakfast too?" Ling Yun smiled at her and sat down opposite her. He put the medicine bag on the table and asked, "Why didn't you come to see me when you came? I thought you broke your promise." Pan Magia touched her nose, not knowing what to say. She did promise him that she would come today. However, the promise was to help him pay for hospital bills. Now that she has paid his hospital fee, doesn't that mean she has fulfilled her promise? Before she could speak, Ling Yun asked again, "Is it because you saw that person that you didn't even bother to say hello to me?" This time, Pan Magia finally said, "Well, since someone is coming to pick you up, you don't need my help, but I have fulfilled my promise. You can't say that I broke my promise. This concerns my integrity." Ling Yun looked at her and asked, "You promised to come see me today, but you left before you saw me. So how can you say that you fulfilled your promise?" "Huh, didn't you ask me to come see you today to pay for your medical expenses?" Pan Magia asked. After hearing her words, Ling Yun finally knew that the girl had misunderstood his words. A smile appeared on his face and he asked, "Are you a generous person or a fool?" Pan Magia was unhappy with his words and said, "Comrade Ling, I can be considered your benefactor. How can you call me a fool?" "Aren't you afraid that I won't repay the money you lent me?" he asked again. Pan Magia was shocked, her eyes widened and she asked, "Aren't you going to return the money to me? That's not okay. I spent a total of 174 yuan on your hospitalization expenses. You must pay me back." Seeing her reaction, Ling Yun nodded and said seriously, "I will definitely return the money to you." Hearing his words, she sighed, patted her chest and said, "That's good. Please don't make such jokes again. I'm almost scared to death. If my father knew that I lent so much money to a stranger, he might beat me to death." "A stranger? I thought we could be considered acquaintances now," Ling Yun said as he raised his eyebrows. "Are we?" Pan Magia asked with surprise. Without saying anything else, Ling Yun went to the counter and ordered a bowl of soup dumplings. When he came back with a bowl of soup dumplings, he said, "After this meal, we are no longer acquaintances, but friends." Pan Magia was stunned by his words, but then she thought about it. Friends are still good. At least it would be easier for her to go find him when she wanted her money back. She nodded and said, "Okay, I'll take you home after this meal."